Darren, what's up, man?
How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm very good.
Nice. Well, thanks.
A little busy.
Yeah. Well, I know, man. You're trying to get it all done. I hear you. I'm the same way. I came from my one job and came to this job, and then I can go to another job.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe I'll play some music at some point.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, man. You know that, though. So, yeah, this is our 25th show, so we wanted to do something big, and so here we are. We got Deron Miller here on the Lowell Show from 96 Bitter Beings.
How's everybody doing out there?
Yeah, man, I hope they're doing good. If they're listening, at least they're not doing that bad, I suppose, huh?
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see after the interview. We'll take a poll. You're calling in from, sunny California, right?
Yeah, it's actually a really nice day today.
Really?
It's always a nice day.
I was just going to say, chances are it's California, so it's constantly sunny.
Yeah, well, where I am, I'm kind of in the desert, and it reaches, over the summer it was reaching like 115 at some points, and it just lays on you, man. It's like you sit outside for a minute and you come in with like burnt red, like you feel it. It's bad. But now, like, we're in, fall, it's getting a little bit, it's like around 80, 81 maybe. So
Yeah.
it's tolerable, it's not horrible weather. But, when it gets really hot, it's like dangerous and it's just uncomfortable and but we're past that. And the electricity bill gets really high too because of the air conditioning.
Yeah, totally. Well, up here it gets below zero in the winter, so we kind of got the opposite, But I was just out in California 3 weeks ago. Drove the coast, did Big Sur. I'd never done Big Sur with my girlfriend, and that was a lot of fun. But it was true. Even when we were up north, I went outside, took my shirt off like 15 minutes, and I was red.
Yeah, I know. It happens so quickly now.
I know.
Usually I remember growing up, on the East Coast, I lived in New Jersey, and you had to be outside for a good hour in the hot sun to be like burnt to a crisp.
Totally.
You didn't have any sunscreen on, but now it's like almost instant.
Yeah, I love it. I'll fly to California for the sun because I know it's going to be there. But man, even when I went out there a couple years ago for like 14 days, I was like, can I have like 1 day of rain? Like, I just need something different.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's why I love living in the Northeast, really, because I need the seasons. I love the fall. I love the winter. If I didn't love the winter, I'm living in the wrong place. And it makes the summer more exciting. It's cliche, but those rainy days make the sunny days.
Oh, I miss thunderstorms.
Yeah.
I love thunderstorms. I love everything about them. I like the sound of them. I like the feel, the smell of it. I like not being able to go anywhere because of it. It's kind of an excuse to just lay low and do something else. And if the electricity goes out, that's even better.
Yeah,
absolutely. I miss the seasons. I don't get many seasons. I have seasonal affective disorder, whatever it is. So moving to California really helps me with that because we don't get too much of a seasonal change. But I miss it. I miss the seasons and winter, and I wish I could take my kids sledding and skiing and all that stuff. But we have Big Bear for that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
so.
you can just like roll up north. It's still a drive, but you got mountains.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
We got a lot. Yeah.
So I don't know. Let's get into it. So your band is 96 Bitter Beings, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You guys are
one of them.
One of them. I was going to say, how many bands are you in?
Jesus. Well, I do some solo stuff.
Right.
I want to do another acoustic record under my name. I have World Under Blood, which is a death metal band. We did an album called Tactical that was a lot of fun to make. I'm really proud of that. And there's Foreign Objects, which is a band that started in 1995. And for the 20th anniversary, we did a third album called Galactic Prey, which was, really exciting and a lot of fun. And that was when the Galactic Prey was an important part of my career because it was when I hooked up with the new guys that I'm working with now, and it was kind of like a trial run to see if everything was cool and we were going to be able to work together, and it turned out amazing, you know. So it was a point where, you know, I realized I'm working with really cool people that are good friends and are very talented and, you know, not too far away from me. So really proud of that record, and it did well. Fans liked it. And then, you know, now I'm in 96 Bitter Beings, and I'm still in all those bands, and eventually, you know, there'll be another album by all of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I said. So the first band that you had created before CKY, I mean, for our listeners, I mean, you've been doing this for a while. CKY, you basically wrote all the songs, you fronted them. I don't quite understand how they can even really be touring. It seems a little awkward to me. But
well, it's physically possible, so I guess
right.
that's why they're doing
I guess
it.
if it's physically possible. I just wonder. My question, because I'm a musician, you know, we haven't met. I'm a musician, and I have a local band, and we've toured, you know, the East Coast. We didn't really go out that far west, and we were, you know, it was a 9-to-5 job for me for about 12 or 13 years, and then we decided to step back, do like 3-4 shows a year, which are awesome because the way
Which band was that?
The band is called Lucid.
Lucid.
Yeah, like I said, it was, you know, out of the Adirondacks, but we created a really great name for ourselves. We had a lot of community support, and you know, that just kind of branched out, kind of like the love that we showed, and just like I said, we managed to do it for a long time. I think we're in our like 15th year now, but like I said, the last couple of years, it's just been, you know, we all love each other. It was just we really put in a valiant attempt to try to do this as a living, and you know what that's like. And you know, after, you know, 12, 13 years of living on a giant bus with 7 or 8 dudes, we still love each other, which I think says a lot about us,
well, you know,
that's
everybody,
hard, you know.
Sometimes personalities change, and sometimes life changes, and you know, same thing, you know, like I had to have a family, you know, I wanted to have a family, I chose to have a family. I didn't want it to slow me down musically, and it hasn't, and it never will. But it's that kind of sanity, it's that kind of route to normalcy that I think that everybody needs.
Yeah.
Because I think that if I hadn't done that, and I had stuck to, you know, the grind of continuing to tour and all that stuff, and that's only if we had been, you know, were maintaining some level of success, but you know, it started to die out. Right. I think that if I had kept doing it even after it had died out, the stress would have killed me, or I would have killed myself or something. I mean, it was just, it became too much.
Well, it's also, I mean, you have to be able to, I call it managing your party. And I think you probably know exactly what I mean by that. You know what I mean? It's like, it can always be a party when you're on the road. Because everywhere
that's the problem. Very few people know how to manage a party.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Managing your party is incredibly hard, man. And it's like, you got to be able to do it.
You get to a point where you say, manage a party, fuck that, you know. And that's what, you know, alcohol and friends and you know, and music and all that stuff does. It's just it's a traveling party that, and you know, when you're fortunate enough to make a living from it, it even makes it more of a crutch in the end, or it can, you know, for some people. But managing it, I don't think, you know, that I think the only way you can manage a party is to walk away from a party, you know, for a little while at least.
Yeah, I mean,
but I understand what you're saying. Like, put yourself on a short leash, know when to say when.
Yeah, when to not do it, because when you are the party, and you're in, you know, Manchester, New Hampshire this night, and everybody's super excited to see you, and you're the party that night because everybody comes to your show, and then when you drive to Boston the next night, everybody's there to see your show. So the people that saw you the night before, they can go home and go to bed. You got to go out and, you know, put on a show and be happy about it, and that's what I kind of explain to people about us stepping back. Like, oh, why'd you stop? You guys were doing well, blah blah blah. I'm like, when you take the thing you love the most in the world and you make it your job, you know, sometimes you feel like shit and you don't want to go to work in the morning. And it kind of, for me, created this mind fuck of like, you know, like, this is the thing that I grew up doing and loving to do. I played in my dad's band, you know, when I was like a little kid, and that's where I got that from. And, you know, I think you know, like I said, when the thing you love the most in the world is your job, it's a great thing and you're lucky to do it. But those days that you just are sick or you're whatever, hungover, or you just don't want to do it because you're just tired, man. And that kind of puts a damper on it. And now that we do like 4 shows a year, what does that mean? That means all of our fans have to come to the shows. You know, they're all sold out. We have a lot of fun playing together again instead of, you know, grinding through. And I think that's what it was all about. I think it was a good move. I do miss, you know, playing, you know, more. But at the same time, like you said, you know, like life happens, personalities change. You get older, you got to
you know,
figure it out,
when
you know?
you're in a band, and if it's the only job you have is being in the band, sometimes there's days when you wake up from the night before where you don't even want to be in the band.
Yeah,
you know,
right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
For me, it's, you know, when I wake up, I need a good hour and a half to become
Human.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's not ever really a problem that I ever had until I hit my 20s. You know, like getting up for high school was a drag, but, you know, I used to be able to get up and get it together and, you know, get through. But now it's like who I am before I get some caffeine and who I become later on is totally different. I wake up, you know, usually with some kind of physical ailment, you know, emotional ailments. I wake up with nightmares still fresh on the brain, and it makes me paranoid, and I'm grouchy, and I'm just a total dick, you know, when I wake up. And, you know, you wake up on a bus and you have a show to do. Sometimes I'd wake up a half an hour before I'm supposed to play.
Right.
And, you know, I have to get myself in that mindset. And, yeah, I mean, it's a lot. You know, fans, when they meet the bands that they go to see, usually sometimes they get them at the right time and sometimes they get them at the wrong time. And I love meeting our fans. I always loved meeting our fans. But, you know, once or twice, and I really mean once or twice in probably 15 years when I was just not having it, I just couldn't do it. Those are the people that remember.
Yeah, of course.
Having met me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I met Darren. He's a dick.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of guilt behind that, you know,
I
and
agree.
I feel really bad.
I agree. When people say that about me, then they do. It's the same thing. It's like, listen, you know, if you know, you're at my show and I really appreciate it, and then we would never take long breaks. Like, my guitarist would get itchier than hell. I'd be like, listen, we got to take at least a 20-minute break. And at like minute 12, he's like, let's go. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, it's like when I get off the stage, I got to like take a leak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get a beer. And by the time I do that, I got to go back on stage. Like, I want to talk to you. I want to take this time to be able to talk to you, but I have a second set to play. Like, please stick around after the show. I'd be happy, you know. And it's the same thing. Those are the people that are like, oh man, thinks he's too cool. It's like, no, man, I got 10 minutes. Like, you know, and it's the same thing. Those are the people that remember that, you know. It's like, I don't know. And I feel bad about it, but I tell them, I'm like, I'm really sorry that I can't, you know, I want to sit here and chill with you, but you know, like I said, you know, I've been on stage for an hour and a half, and I got to take a leak, and I need a beer, and then I got to play again.
It's hard for people to put themselves in those shoes.
Yeah, and they're stoked, they're excited, they want to talk to you. You know, they got a buzz on or whatever, and it's just, you know, it depends on, you know, some people take it better than others, but I hear what you're saying. It's like I love
now on the
to folks.
On the internet, it's very easy now on the internet to make amends and apologize for such behavior, you know.
It's also really
you know,
easy to make
at the
more
same
of a
time,
fool
it
of
should be
yourself.
understandable, you know.
I
try not to meet any, but you know, I go to in the rare event that I go to concerts, I don't make really any attempt to meet, you know, the band, but usually, you know, I've met a lot of people, and some of them are, you know, awesome, like really cool people, and some of them, you know, aren't. And I think, you know, it could have been catching them on a bad day because, you know, we're fans as well, you know, fans of people, and it's just a really, really, really interesting job to have.
Yeah.
You meet all kinds of people. You meet a lot of different people, so much to the point where I have trouble remembering names of neighbors and parents of my kids' friends and my kids' friends' names at all. You know, I can't remember names for shit.
Me too. I'm absolutely horrible at it. And like, you know, sometimes people like they just really, you know, they're like, "Oh, you don't know my name," and I'm like, "You're right. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's all I can say. Please tell me your name again. I'm going to make a conscious effort. It just goes in. It's just hard sometimes. And when you meet, whatever, if you meet 5 people a night, that's a lot of meeting, let alone if it's 15 or 20. You know, it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I'm not at all trying to, like, I wasn't doing what you were doing. You guys were doing a lot bigger stuff, but it's interesting. I noticed that when I talk to other musicians that are internationally touring musicians or whatever, you know, like, sure, we were like, you know, a bigger band, you know, in the Northeast or whatever, but it all translates. It's all kind of the same. It's all, you know, whether you're in a massive touring band that's traveling the world, or if you're doing it just regionally, you know, you have some of the same issues, you know, relationship issues, you know, from being on the road, and there's just shared, you know, these shared problems that, you know, a lot of musicians, no matter what, you know, where they are in their career, I feel have. It's something that I've noticed. You know?
And, you know, you know, we were pretty much, a couple of us were just fresh right out of high school, right onto a bus, you know. Right. So even like in the domestic department, you know, to this day, I'm very accustomed and set in my ways when it comes to my domesticated outcome, the results of my domestication, and it's not easy. You know, I don't, you know, we have a nice house here in Santa Clarita, California, and you know, I like to fall asleep sitting up watching this TV show, you know, because that's how it was on the bus.
Yeah.
And it's a weird situation after 15 years or so of gigging, touring, and going everywhere, you know, you've never even heard of, waking up not knowing where you are and stuff like that. And the fact that very little of touring has to do with the show is something that people overlook as well. And it's lonely, you know.
Absolutely.
It's lonely. And if you have people at home, you miss them. You miss home. And then when you're home, you miss being out on tour. So, you know, we're really excited to get some kind of touring going soon, because I miss it, and I know these guys want to do it. Some of them have touring experience. So we're just really excited to get out and play this stuff. You know, so I'm ready to get back into it after, you know, it's been 3 years maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
3 or 4 years. And I've gotten a lot done in that 3 or 4 years, but I want to go back out and reconnect with everybody, see what touring is like in 2019, and see what, you know, see what's going on. See if there's anything that, you know, can be changed or tried differently, or, you know, what have you, you know. There's a lot of things that I want to do besides just be a rock band. I want to make 96 Bitter Beings an entity, kind of like the CKY crew was. You know, we made videos and did all the different kinds of things. But I'd love to, you know, make 96 Bitter Beings an entity that can score movies, that can make movies, that can do anything, you know, do TV shows, do podcasts, anything that's entertainment that's under, you know, that banner alone, aside from being just a boring rock. I mean, you know, most bands, you know, that are new or up and coming, it don't interest me too much, but I think you just need to be more than just a band nowadays, unless you're Kiss or the Rolling Stones or something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Or Metallica, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, even that, they're more than a band; they're a brand. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, in this day and age, you know, I mean, I think about, you know, some of the bands, you know, back in the 60s and 70s and what they were doing. It's like now, you know, it's just really with, you know, well, more people on the planet, you know, and because of the things, you know, the music that of these earlier bands, you know, I mean, Jimi Hendrix, Janis, you know, all those folks. It's like if you put them in today's world, they would still rock, but it's, you know, it's a natural evolution of music and people. Like, they wouldn't be, I have to say this gently because, I mean, they're some of the best musicians ever lived, but if you transplanted them in today's market, there's going to be more of people doing what they're doing, and not just because they did it first, but because people are expanding, and the internet, you know, if you do it, you know, on one side of the world, the next day somebody can try to replicate it on the other because they saw it. And it's just,
Right.
you know, which is great. And it, you know, it's also makes it harder to be as original as you know, in the past, it was a little bit easier. And I think
well, now, like you said, there's so many people now, and there's so many people trying to do, you know, music that it's kind of like doing music and recording nowadays is so much easier than it was and so much cheaper that you have a lot of people that can do it and a lot of people that can't. So the reason I think, you know, we're always going to have, you know, the classics, you know, like you said, Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles and the Monkees and Kiss and Rolling Stones, they're all still popular because they've been doing it for years.
Right, and they were the first.
And they're the first.
You know what I mean?
You know, there's plenty of people that, in some cases and in some opinions, you know, some people that are doing stuff now might consider it better than all that stuff. But the problem is that there's so much competition, and there's such a strange and bizarre way of music being promoted, and it's much more difficult to catch a listener's ear, that, you know, most people will go back to AC/DC and all that stuff. So it's really hard up and coming to make a name for yourself because there's so much competition, and even if your music stands out, it's still difficult because people want to be able to. I think the secret is to put the personalities to the music, and that's why I want to express the idea of you know, being interested in making it an entity other than just a band, because I think just bands, a rock band to me, and this is just in my opinion, there's nothing more boring to me than a rock band. You know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's really boring to me, and you know, some things can be possible to alter that feeling, which maybe a cool band name or a cool show or the music is really, really good. But I mean, it's really hard to break these days. Like the only bands I can think of are like Ghost, and you know, I think that's it. Like Ghost is like the only metal hard rock band that's been able to break in the last 5 or 6 years. So, you know, music is looked at differently. It's very easy to obtain. It's very easy to make. And
right, exactly. That's what I mean. I mean, even us, you know, our first album, super professionally produced. You can hear it, you know. And then, you know, our second album we did with a buddy of ours who really had never worked with a whole band before. It was kind of a learning process for everyone. Once again, you know, we're younger, but we still did it, you know. And like, you know, 15 years ago, before that, when we did it, like to try to record your own album, like it was almost like it was like a futuristic idea. It wasn't something you could just, you know, really do. You know, it's
and you appreciated it so much more because it cost a lot of time and money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're in there and you're under the gun. You know, you're in the studio. You're under the gun. Either you're paying for it or somebody else is paying for it, and you have to make sure that what you've got written, the material that you have, is worthy of all this spending.
Yeah.
All the spending of time and all the spending of money. But now you
go ahead.
Yeah, now you can just open up. You know, you can open up Pro Tools. You can go in with your songs and you can demo them, redo them. You can. I mean, we did 52 songs in the last 2 years. Just from going in and not being under the gun, not having, you know, we have fully equipped state-of-the-art recording studio.
Yeah,
everybody
does
their job.
What's like I mean, I don't want to call it a negative necessarily, but have those albums been released yet?
Oh yeah, the one that's one of them is called Campaign, which is a play on words because it was crowdfunded by our fans,
right,
who helped us with the expenses of things like shipping. Shipping all 500 to 1,000. I think it's somewhere around 1,000 that have to go out. So, I mean, that's an album that we made specifically for our fans, and it's actually like a sampler of everything that we can do. But there's so much more that we can do. So it's just like a sampler. Like every song is like the first album, the first CKY album, where each song has and it sounds like a different band almost.
yeah.
So what we did with Campaign is we tried to pick like the best of what we could do, and put it on the album. And then there's a cover of Michael Jackson's "Beat It" on there. There's a song that an old friend that we used to play with. Matty Janitis, he was 14 and hanging around the studio, back in 1999, and we've been friends ever since. And he wrote a song, me and him collaborated on a little bit, and it's just a really good representation of all the different styles that we can do, and there's much more that we can do. And then there's the other album, Synergy Restored, which is like the album for the masses, Right. I wanted to acknowledge our diehard fans with the Campaign album, because there's a lot of stuff on there that they're going to notice that's not an homage. I don't like homages, but things that are going to, put a smile on their face, because it's going to sound familiar to them, and it's going to sound like that sound that they're looking for, that they haven't gotten in a long time. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Aside from that, there's 9 songs on that one, and then I think there's 12 songs on the other one, and then there was a bunch of perk songs that we did, which included like acoustic renditions of old songs, or they said, we did a perk where we recorded a song that they had written. I mean, there's a lot of good ideas out there. If you want to be in a band, you can have people send you their songs, and you can record them the best you can, and they really, really love that stuff.
Well, for sure. And I mean, it's obviously, they got to love you to want to do that. They're just going to send that out anywhere. I mean, I guess my point was, and where I was going with that was, when you're doing your own and you're not under the gun because, your record contract says that this album has to be completed by this time, it's really easy. I know for me, when we were self-recording, self-producing our albums, we had this, it wasn't a hard timeline, but this is when we wanted it done by. Man, you can spend another 6 months just editing and putting in more overdubs and just picking it apart. And at some point, you got to just walk away, man. It's like, and it's so hard. And I think that's kind of, it's a certain personality
called letting
trait.
It go.
Yeah, letting it go, walking away. You know what I mean? And it's just, and the next thing you know, it could take you 3 years to put out an album that you're super proud of, but everybody's like, I thought it was coming out, And then when you got something that's like funded, you feel like you might not have a hard deadline, but your fans gave you money to make this thing because they love you. And it's like, man, we got to give it to them. I feel bad making them wait, but it's worth the wait. Of course, when it happens, they're stoked, but they're like, hey, how much money did I give to that? It's a different kind of deadline.
For us, I mean, it was funny because I was always the one that had trouble letting it go. Like, is this done? Is this done? Oh, this could be better. This could be better. This time, it was more our guitar player, producer, engineer guy, Ken, who kept wanting to make things better, which is definitely appreciable, if that's a word.
Works
but
for me.
yeah, I mean, there was a point where we had to say, let's let it go. And yeah, of course, you definitely appreciate somebody that wants to make it better, but there is sort of like a deadline in your head, and then you have to deal with pressing them up at the plant and dealing with the people that work there and how they're just doing a job they might not like. And that's kind of where I was a week ago. I was trying to get the pressing plant that's doing the campaign album to get it right, and it was just email after email after email, and at one point they were using the wrong version of the artwork, and I had to start over, and then I didn't know what ISRC codes were, so I had to go and file for that, and then got them in just barely in time. So it hasn't been really anything like there hasn't been stalling. I mean, make no mistake, we've been working our asses off. I mean, 52 songs.
That's a ton of songs, man. Yeah, that's crazy.
52. You know, and there's 21 on the 2 albums, and then the rest were either things that we did for specific people and only specific people. Like there's a cover of Lionel Richie's All Night Long that was done for somebody and only that somebody, and it turned out really, really cool, really cool. And I would love for people to be able to hear it, but at the same time, I also love that kid who contributed for us to make it for him doesn't want to share it.
Yeah,
and
no,
I
he
think
wants
that's
it, man.
awesome.
It's his. He's like, I'm not giving anybody this shit.
And people, it causes a bit of a stir. You know, people know who has it. They know who has it. They're asking if they can hear it. And I love that the kid says, "This is mine. They did it for me. It's very personal to me, and I'm not sharing it."
Oh, don't worry. He'll sell it for $10,000 in like 4 years.
I don't know. I don't think so. Hopefully not. But that's kind of how I feel about the campaign album, is that people that, that want to buy a copy of it just out of nowhere, our attitude is, no, this is for the people that gave a shit since the beginning, since we started this band, and this album is for them. And if and when it leaks, that's a different story.
Yeah.
The whole project was started with the intention that, okay, everybody that owns this album it's your album, you own it, no one else has the right, to own it because it's specially made for you, from us to you. So that's how I would like to keep it, but in the event that somebody shares it, then everyone will get to hear it, and we'll have, more songs to stream and all that. But I would really, really love it if it stayed within the crowd that it was designated for. It's wishful thinking, but I would just think that would be the coolest thing in the world if, there was no amount of money for anyone to leak it or any of that. It would just make it such a really cool thing. But again, that's wishful thinking. But, we're prepared for both. We're prepared for it to not leak, and we're prepared for it to leak.
Right.
And that's just the nature of the business nowadays.
It's also the nature of technology.
The way it is.
Things are so easily replicable. I mean, you know that, like, you can replicate anything, and it's like, when the Napster thing was going down, it was like all of a sudden, like your music, before you could sell your music and actually make money on it, and now it doesn't matter. It's everywhere. The moment you release an album, it's out there and anybody can do it, and it wasn't like that.
Well, for as much as people hate President Trump, he is the only president since the internet kind of destroyed the business. He's the only president to sign something. I don't know what he signed, but he signed something that makes organizations have to pay more attention to who plays what gets played, and making sure that the artists get paid.
Yeah.
A lot of people resent musicians that make a living off of it because they think you're doing what you want to do. You shouldn't even be making money.
Absolutely.
That's not fair.
Oh my God, it's not fair. It drives me freaking nuts.
Yeah, and it's something that if it was role reversed and that person was doing it, they wouldn't have that problem anymore. So it's pretty much just an envy thing. But
well, that's what I mean.
It's a lot of work. It's not all, shits and giggles. It's rarely shits and giggles. The shits and giggles part, that's just the top. That's just the icing on the cake. You know, the cake is actually hard work and you know, dealing with a bunch of bullshit and you know, getting ripped off and working hard, being disappointed. There's a lot of, you know, there was a lot of hard things about being in this business when, even before the internet completely, you know, took it away from everybody.
Well, like you said,
but, you know,
people think it's always a party. People think that you're out there having fun. You know, why do you need that much money, you know, to play music? Or like, why do you, you know, you said exactly, you know, like people just assume like, well, you love doing this, so why are you even getting paid? It's the same thing with the album. When people think you're stalling, you know, like they haven't been trapped in a studio for 3 days with like no light. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't know what it's like to pick apart something that you're trying to put out there, that it's your heart and soul. You want the best possible representation.
Well, I always look at it as anything that you release is going to outlive you.
Right, of course.
Forever.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's going to be out there till the end of time.
Yeah.
You know, Janis Joplin's been dead for how many years, but people still listen to her music. So the outcome is way more important than the deadline.
100%.
You know.
But like once again, people that haven't done it, or people that, you know, their view of what we're doing is like, you know, it's almost cartoonish.
It's a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
It's a lack of understanding, which is fine. But I think what's interesting to me is that the wealthiest musicians are the ones that are complaining. I've never had the urge. I never wanted to be a rock star per se, like whatever that entails. Famous for it. I just wanted to be able to do it and do nothing else.
Yep.
That's always been my dream. I never wanted to have millions of dollars because, frankly, I don't have anything to spend it on.
Yeah.
So I don't care about money any more than just having enough.
Yeah.
So that everything, you know, that you need is taken care of. And fortunately, I'm not in a position where I have to worry about that. But I can understand, you know, definitely that artists want to be paid for their work, and they don't, you know, they want to sell physical copies. I'm a fan of physical music. I love records. Vinyl is my life.
Yeah, we listen to only vinyl at my house.
A good choice.
Yeah,
a good choice.
And a ton of vinyl, because my parents' old vinyl, like all sorts of great stuff. Every time I go to a show,
and it's catching on
it.
again. It's cyclical. It's all cyclical. Everything, the physical format. I think that all the kids that are now in their early to late 20s that were getting music off the internet, they have, you know, a younger generation that now wants to put a physical object to the music that they're listening to. So vinyl sales have spiked, you know. CD sales are still doing okay. You know, I like to stream an album. If I like it, I'll buy it digitally, and then I'll go and I'll seek out the vinyl. But the fact that in 2018, almost every single album that comes out is also released on vinyl is something I never thought would happen.
Yeah, absolutely not.
And I'm really excited about it because vinyl is my life. My collection is unreal. It's something that has to be seen to be believed. So I like the physical format. For my band, I want to make vinyls. I want to make even cassettes. You know, some of my finest memories are of listening to cassettes in my piece of shit car.
Yeah, my sister makes cassettes still, actually. It's funny because I didn't know you can re-record over any cassette. So she found like a ton of my old, like, you know, like I'm talking like Ice Cube, like, you know, like super old, you know, old, like, you know, whatever, Red Hot Chili Pepper, like just all sorts of stuff. And it was like, she makes these, she'll like record live shows because she used to have a venue where she would have bands come through, and she would like record them, but it's on like a Dr. Dre cassette tape, you know?
Right.
But it's like, I had no idea you could just re-record over any of that. It was like,
Just put a piece of tape over the
And literally, she would
left-hand
do it with like
side.
an old boombox. It was like my first boombox my parents gave me when I was a kid. Like that's what she would record on them.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're chilling outside
And
on the back porch, she puts in cassette tapes into and, you know, that's what we're watching.
yeah,
That's what we're listening to.
I still listen to cassettes too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are people there's a market for that. They didn't make cassettes for albums 5 years ago.
Nope.
Now they're starting to do that. Because you know what it is like the best way to listen to music is always going to outlive the new technology ways of streaming and stuff like that. You know, we're aging ourselves, we're dating ourselves, but you know, my parents never appreciated, you know, things that were invented like the VCR, you know, or stuff like that. But those things really were improvements, you know. You can watch, instead of waiting for a movie to come on TV once a year, you can actually go out and get it and play it whenever you want. And that was a big deal in the 80s, you know. And then you got your DVD and you got all these improvements on the physical format. Now there is no physical format, and it's a step down, but people are realizing that that physical format for music is cooler, and it's never been uncool. And even though it's an old idea, it's still a lot of fun, and if you're into music, it's a perfect way to celebrate it, you know, to have the artwork, to have it in front of you, you know.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
My sister's band just put out a vinyl, and what they did was with the vinyl purchase only, they had my sister's also a seamstress. She like basically put together these like handmade books with lyrical content that were all they spent a ton of time making them, and she like binded them herself. And
that is really cool.
Yeah,
that's a really cool idea.
Oh, it is. It's wicked. And like, you know, people wanted to buy just that book, and they just wanted to buy a CD. And it's like, you know, I'm sorry, these are for the folks that want the vinyl. Like that's who gets these, you know.
Right.
And it was a super cool idea. People loved it. It was awesome. They did an incredibly good job on it. I mean, they did it all by hand though, so it was like, yeah, it was like a serious amount of work. You know,
making handmade items for fans, like physical form. I make CDs, and used to more than I do now, but I used to make all these cassette tapes that I made by hand. I used, you know, color. You could hardly tell the difference between a professional one and the ones that I sat at home and cut the covers out myself. You know, I enjoyed doing that. Still do. I enjoy doing that. I just love the physical format of music. I love it.
I agree.
And it's fun. It's fun to make on your own. It's fun to make professionally, and you know, it's just cyclical. It's back. You know, it's going to come back. And putting, you know, with your sister situation, it's a perfect thing. It's exactly the thing that we're onto, is that vinyl collectors get something special.
Yep.
Because it encourages people to go out and get a record player, because they're missing out on the real way to listen to music. Now, there's casual fans out there that just want to play a song over their phone, and that's fine, you know.
Yeah,
that's
or if you're on the move or you're at the gym, it's awesome. It's handy to have.
Yeah.
You know, but
there are people that, you know, aren't interested and never will be interested in owning a record player or a cassette player or whatever. You know, they probably don't buy CDs anymore, but there are definitely kids out there and young adults and older people that need to find out about vinyl and analog ways of playing digital music, because there's so much missing in MP3s and even on CDs. When CDs came out, they were considered the best quality way you can listen to music, and that didn't even end up being true.
Yeah.
Because with CD quality, you lost a lot of the separation of the instruments. And when you listen to a mix on vinyl, you can actually, with your ear, if you have a good enough ear, you can pick out each instrument. And you can hear everything stands out on its own in a different part, in a different area. And that's what's so great about vinyl.
Yeah.
There's also cheap vinyl that's made from CDs, which is kind of a bad thing, but usually there's no other choice because, you know, a lot of the albums that I liked when I was in high school that are coming out on vinyl now, they never were on vinyl and they weren't mastered for vinyl, so they don't sound that great. But it's still nice to own them, you know.
It's a whole different master because we're actually so we've only released CDs, but one of our CDs, I think it's probably 8 years old or something. We're thinking about releasing it on vinyl, which is actually probably the news to anybody who's listening to this show right now that's a fan of ours. But we picked this disc that I think would sound the best on vinyl out of all of them, and it has to be remastered. My bass player is saying it has something to do with like the bass, because if you just try to like put that onto vinyl, you have to just
it takes up a lot.
Yeah.
Bottom heavy recordings take up a lot of space on vinyl, and they tend to it almost over, I don't know, for lack of a better word, it just overpowers what you can put on vinyl. Also, how much music you put on the vinyl, it definitely affects the quality. It's 23 minutes per side.
Right.
And unless, like, for bands like Metallica, those first 5 albums that I love from them, it's better to buy the ones that are on 2 records, or maybe even 4. They have box sets that have 4 records in there. And, the ones where they try to jam 35 minutes on one side, it suffers, There are record plants out there that I've talked to when I'm shopping around to release a vinyl that refuse to do more than 23 minutes, which I think is really cool. But there's albums like Def Leppard's Hysteria and all the Metallica albums that have been put onto one disc that are suffering from that, and they were originally released only on one disc. So if you have a copy of Hysteria from 1987, it's like 32 minutes per side, and the quality suffers, so it doesn't sound very good. But, we're dorks right now, where people don't really know, people don't really pay attention to this stuff. If they're interested in learning it, that's fine, but other than that, we're probably putting some people to sleep.
Right, yeah, absolutely. My friends over in Burlington, Vermont, the Crowther brothers, they have a vinyl factory that they press stuff at, and they've done a lot of cool stuff over there. I'm trying to find the name of their company, but they were musicians and they loved vinyl, and they wanted to be able to have affordable vinyl, have bands be able to press their albums. When there
you should get them in touch with me, because I really would like to speak with them if possible.
They're incredible guys. I mean, they're really good at what they did. That's who did my sister's album. I'm trying to think who else they've done. They've done some bigger bands that you would know. Actually, I think on the punk scene. I'm trying to think of I forget the name of the band. It's more of my sister's kind of jams, but I mean, yeah, I definitely can. I can definitely get their contact info and get it to you, because I think they would really be kind of share your passion, and they're doing it not just for a job, but because they really do love vinyl.
I love it.
Want people, yeah. So I think it'd be a good fit.
And I got a lot of titles that I'd like to put out from my personal catalog that I'd like to put out on vinyl. So it's always nice to shop around and find the best price, because it's expensive, man. It's expensive to press vinyl, and it takes a long time because there's so few plants now that you usually find yourself on a waiting list. And one title could take anywhere from 6 to 9 months or more. So,
yeah, I believe I just found it. I'm trying to make sure. I don't know if that is. I said the Burlington Record Plant. I'm not sure if it's them or not.
No, just send it.
Yeah,
send it to me in like an email or something.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's Burlington Record Plant. I'll get you the info though. I also love to get your address and send you one of my sister's vinyls. I think you'd really dig their stuff, and if you like vinyl that much.
What kind of music is it?
I did a podcast with those guys. They're called Adrian Aardvark. It's I forgot, like, I don't know how they, like, really, it's so interesting. It's string bass, so my sister plays stand-up bass, violin player,
oh, wow.
drummer, guitar player, but it's almost like weird folk like punky, like folk. It's I forgot what you call it.
Sounds interesting.
Weirdo folk. I forgot what Chris calls it. It's just because his delivery, he has amazing lyrics, but his lyrical, his singing style is something like you haven't heard before. It really grew on me. It was like one of those things that I was just like, oh man, I don't know, it's kind of weird, and now I love it, and the songs are so catchy, it just sticks in my head, and
those are the best. Those are the best records. The ones you don't like the first time you hear them.
Absolutely, and now I absolutely love it. And the only way I really want to listen to it is on vinyl. It's like I prefer to chill at my house and listen to it. My sister doesn't even know, she's not home, and I put on her album. She loved to hear that. But
sibling rivalry. Don't let her find out.
Yeah, don't let her know I love her too much. But
that's awesome.
Hey, one thing I want to talk about was, so, I guess, so some folks listening probably know, exactly who you are. Some of them don't. In the beginning was Foreign Objects.
Are we live right now?
No, we're not live.
Okay, so it's going to be aired later.
Yeah, it'll be aired at a later time.
Is it edited?
Well, it's edited if it needs to be, but our flow is pretty good. Like, we're not going to stop and edit anything. We're just going to let it go.
Gotcha.
It's more like, because a lot of times I'll have people live in the studio, and I'll have them play instruments here in the studio, or sometimes we'll cut and and if if we have to edit and music in, or whatever,
right.
We can do that too. But most of the time it's just kind of the flow, and we release it this way. But what I was going to say was, so your original band, like way back in the day, was Foreign Objects. That was like, you were in high school when you were doing that, right? And then and that was with Jesse. Was that Jesse in that band? Was he play drums in that? Mm-hmm. Okay. And
we started it in 94.
Right.
And we released an EP in 1995 called The Undiscovered Numbers and Colors. It was like a math metal kind of thing, because the influences were bands like Pestilence and Believer and Cynic and Atheist and stuff like that. And we basically wanted to do our own version of that. And that was 23 years ago.
And then you guys kind of moved, because I knew you guys. I hadn't really listened to it. I'm listening to a lot of your stuff, just kind of like preparing for this. I mean, you are a guitar riff monster, dude. Like you really come up with some serious riffs. And because I was, the first thing I said was like, oh, he's lead vocalist and rhythm guitar player. It's like, yeah, I guess you could call what you're doing rhythm guitar playing, but like originally there was just the three of you, it was bass, guitar, and drums, right? And it was like, and the bass player was kind of like, you were kind of figuring a permanent person there, and then you brought on another guitar player. But I mean, when you were playing rhythm, but those riffs are like questionably lead sometimes. You know what I mean? You're a great songwriter. I really kind of like sit down and like
thank you very much.
Yeah, listening to you like seriously for the first time. I mean, because I kind of came up, like sure, Bam Margera, the Jackass Crew, Can't Kill Yourself, which was a bunch of those dudes. CKY is classified as skate rock or skate punk, right? Like,
we were classified as anything, whatever was trendy at the time.
Stoner rock, like there was just like this huge amount of things, and I'm like, yo, did you skate? Are you a skater? Like, how did you like to have that classification? Like, I would be annoyed. I'd be like, I don't skateboard, bitches. Like, don't call my music
right.
skateboard.
I didn't. I don't skateboard. I didn't skateboard, but everyone around me did.
Right. Yeah.
So we were. I just rolled with it. It was just something that happened at that time. It was 2001,
Well, what lended itself...
I always wanted to make movies. I always wanted to be an actor. I still want to be an actor. I still do movies sometimes, and eventually I want to go down a more serious path towards movie making and acting and stuff like that. But, it was just an entity, and it was a very rare yet confusing concept. It's basically, I compare it to John Waters, the movie maker, John Waters, and his friends that got together and did different things. They made movies, they threw parties, they did all kinds of things together.
Yeah, I love
and
the idea.
I guess that was basically what it was.
Well, that was what I'm saying.
And, you know, that was the best way to be in a band, because even back then we thought rock bands were boring.
Right.
Just to be that, you know, just to be a rock band, it's just not enough. You know, it just brings me to now where the same concept still applies. I want to have us be an entity and have us do different things. And the riffs come from how passionate I was about what I was listening to and my influences. And James Hetfield was my influence on rhythm guitar, because
yeah, I can see that.
That guy is just incredible rhythm guitar. He can make 4 guitars sound like one.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so tight. That was really important to me, that my guitar playing was tight, and that if I was writing a song, it had to do something instrumentally before I could take it to a vocal level. Lots of songs don't do anything until the vocals are put on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wanted the songs to do something for people, even if there were no vocals on them.
That's
the
really
vocals
hard to
just
do.
made it. I know.
Yeah.
It was really hard to do, but with the influences that I surrounded myself with, and as the amount of time that I spent listening to music, it eventually it worked itself out. I listened to so many different kinds of music and so many different ideas that I spent so much time practicing and developing, you know, what a lot of people consider to be my own style. And it's just, you know, to give it a really light, vague, way of sort of talking about it, it's kind of just like slowing death metal riffs down into rock, into, you know, a slower, more rock-based groove, I guess it would be called.
Yeah, it's more. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, you know, anything fast can be a groove, but yeah, slowing it down. Like I love that super sludgy stuff sometimes. That's just so like it's confusing how something can be so slow and so heavy at the same time. Because I'm not a huge metalhead. I love all sorts of different music, and like that's what I was, you know. But like I love that super heavy, sludgy. Like I don't even know how you can. It's like you almost can't like play. It's like, how are you even playing that slow and still making a groove? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then to like like take those super fast metal riffs and like slow them down a little bit and rock them out a little bit. I mean, you do an incredibly good
and the
job.
Opening track,
it was awesome.
The opening track on the Campaign album is exactly what you just described.
Yeah.
It's very, very slow, and we stacked all these different tones of guitar. That 2 of the tracks, I think there might be like close to 15 guitar tracks playing these riffs. But there's two of those guitar tracks have this tone that's so low and so buzzy that when we combined them all with the bass, it turned out so heavy that people are gonna be like, "What the fuck?" You know?
Yeah.
And we made it so that you have to turn up the CD to listen to what happens in the beginning. I don't want to give away too much,
right.
but you have to turn it up, and then when the song kicks in, everybody will be listening to it really loud already. So it's really, really cool. I just can't wait to get it out.
I know. It's itchy, man. You want people to hear it. You want people to like, you know, see what they've been, you know, waiting on.
I'm getting really giddy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I mean, like I was saying, so for me, who, you know, I'm really become more of a fan recently, just from kind of like listening to like, you know, your early stuff, and especially 96 Bitter Beings. I'm pretty stoked on. I'm gonna, you know, I was like YouTubing all over the place, but I really have more of an appreciation. For me, it was confusing in the beginning because it was like, okay, I saw Bam Margera, you know, on stage or on TV. beating up his dad and jumping off of buildings and shit. And you guys, like CKY, was like the soundtrack to that. And I think that was kind of my introduction. Like when Damien told me that we are going to be interviewing you, I knew exactly who you were, but it was like, it wasn't because I was like a huge super fan. It was, and so I wonder, like, there's probably a lot of people out there like that too, where it was like, their connection with you was, that Jackass crew or that pre-Jackass crew, and then the confusion of, is CKY a band or is CKY this group of guys who do stupid shit to other people? You know what I'm saying? And
it was both.
It was both, and that's what you were talking about. Was it was kind of more of a thing, but it was, that's at the risk of. I'm not
so sure what it is now.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're not.
It doesn't. But it's not important to me. But what we have coming is definitely. We don't want to do prank videos and all that stuff because all the YouTubers have definitely blown away all the Jackass stuff.
Yeah, totally.
You go on YouTube, I see things on YouTube done by these crazy Death Wish kids that Jackass guys would never do. So to think that you could ever top stuff that happens online from random people that have all these followers and these subscribers and stuff like that, that's not of any interest to us. And frankly, getting hurt doing a prank never interested me because I didn't want to, break my arm.
Yeah, hurt yourself sucks, dude.
Right.
It's totally inconvenient and it fucks everything up. I'm all set with that.
Right.
And then you got this group of guys that made it their job where they had to do it, and I could see it going down a sad path. As it kind of continued and them trying to push it more and more, and, seeing Steve-O and, his,
It's been pushed so far.
Demons,
I think that those guys started the idea of doing things like that, the danger, and, they got hurt. And there's no discounting the fact that they really, put themselves through hell to entertain people. And it worked. But what it did was, just like Led Zeppelin, it caused a bunch of other people to take it even further than they ever would,
right,
or could. Now that we're all getting older,
right.
So it's like the things that I want the 96 Bitter Beings band to be doing. The entity is I want us to get more involved in horror, in making TV shows and giving opinions and doing movies and scoring movies and all that stuff. There's so many things that a group of people that have different talents, there's so many things that they can do that you don't have to limit it to just touring and recording. It can, and that's what basically I'm borrowing from that idea of what we did in the beginning with the stunts and stuff like that. But that was never my intention to do that. I was only on one episode of Jackass, and it was fun, but it wasn't something that I wanted to commit to.
Yeah, what was the show before that? That was like BAM's, where they're just like at his house. That was before Jackass, right? And that's where I thought I saw.
It was the first episode. The first episode.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
I might be in other episodes. I don't
Jackass,
know. I never watched them.
Wasn't there like another show? It was like BAM's. I don't know, or is that after Jackass? I don't know what the hell's going on.
I don't know. I don't know that we ever really took part in that. I don't know. I don't remember. I never really watched.
Professional skateboarder. I mean, did that help CKY become known, or was it like vice versa? I don't know that timeline.
Well, it was just the same. It happened at the same time. It just kind of
happened at the same time, but it helped a little, but it wasn't the reason why.
I think it helped us both.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because a lot of bands were used on that show,
yep,
and most of them didn't stick like we did.
Yeah. Well, also, Jesse, the drummer of CKY at the time, is he still the drummer? Is he still in CKY?
I guess so.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I
don't follow them.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, is there royalties, or we don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. I just don't understand how you were such an integral part of this. They still have the name. They're still doing whatever the hell they're doing. And
you're interviewing the wrong guy.
Yeah.
You'd have to ask them.
All right.
Because I think it's silly too, but it doesn't matter.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm more impressed with I love musical evolution. It's like, people when they love somebody for so long and listen to their music, like the example I always give is Metallica. People are like, oh, I love the early Metallica. Well, it's like, you know what? And then they went on to play with the symphony, and that's pretty fucking awesome. And it's the evolution of men getting older, in this case men, men getting older and just, wanting to explore things different musically, and it's an evolution within their artistic.
Plus, they're all they're in their 50s or 60s, and they're domesticated now.
Yeah.
And domestication slows a lot of people down. I always promised myself that I wasn't going to let it slow me down. I wasn't going to make it alter what I write about. I wasn't going to change any of my musical perspectives because of being a father. I don't. I still want to sing about what I sing about. I'm not watering any. I would never water anything down. Now, but not everybody does that. Some people, it does change their perspective on what they used to do.
Yeah.
And I think some bands lose that passion and that hunger because they're not hungry anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. They've every day is a massive smorgasbord for them, and there's nothing left to be hungry for some people, I think.
Right. So I think that Metallica will always have those albums when they weren't domesticated, they didn't have money, they really loved what they were doing, and now they're just they're comfortable. They've been doing it for so long, it's their thing.
Yeah.
And some people think the music suffers, some people don't. I think albums like Saint Anger are really hard to explain.
That's a good way to put it.
The why and the how, and trying to do something different, or.
Well, I think of it as, like I said, like it's an evolution of a human being as they grow older, as they grow different, whatever it is.
Well, you saw the movie. They weren't getting along, and.
Oh my God, that was freaking Lars crying the whole time. It was amazing. The whole thing. I was like some kind of monster and stuff. I was like, I went to a viewing where the producer was there, and it was like I found that just incredibly interesting just to see. And then of course being in a band and just thinking about like, my Lord. I mean, obviously we never got to the point where we're splitting up millions of dollars and shit. So I know there's a totally different level. But just to see, like, all the guys in my band, we're all different dudes. We all got different stuff. We all got our own shit. We're all different kinds of assholes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But we all really still love each other. And I think that's impressive that that's even a thing. Then you watch bands that, like, can't even travel on the same tour bus together. Like, how does that translate to a live show? How can you put your heart out there?
I think the audience can tell.
They can tell. And I think this suffers, and people are just like, this isn't the same shit. These people hate each other. You know what I mean?
I know. It's really sad because music is something that's supposed to unite people in a sense.
And I think, your break.
If it's not doing that, then it's not going to last. People aren't seeing it that way. The audience can tell because they use your energy to create their energy.
Absolutely.
And if your energy comes off a little off, wrong, it's like something not being plugged in all the way.
Yeah.
It goes on and off, or it stays off. It doesn't translate to the audience. And the audience can tell when you're bluffing. So, thankfully for me, I've always loved that moment being up on stage, whether I had the flu or I was hungover or diarrhea or whatever. I always was happy to be up there for that hour and a half, no matter how I felt. And that adrenaline always kicked in. And
that's true.
That's why, no matter how, the relationships suffered, when you got up on the stage, it became irrelevant. All that stuff.
Right. I mean, that, like I said, it's best, it's best case scenario. I mean, it's, like I said, I think the fans can tell, and I think, anyways, I
They
mean, I think
definitely.
you're not with that band anymore, and you're continuing your life and doing super awesome shit and making incredible music. And what are you gonna do? Like dwell on whatever happened? No, you're just gonna keep going out there and doing what you got to do. And
Fuck no, I don't.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't think
yeah,
about that. It's a new beginning. It's a new band, and it's a fun journey. Part of becoming successful for some people, not most people, but for some people, is the process of climbing that uphill ladder. The climbing that really steep ladder. I love the process of making things happen. That things grow, that they improve, everything improves. When things start to get worse or not as good, if you're up there and you start coming down, then it's a dead issue for me. When something has nowhere else to go, it's not exciting anymore. It's more fun to start something new and start all over again and climb that ladder. And fortunately, we have people we have a sizable fan base that's waiting to take part in that growth and to be a part of what happens with us.
yeah.
And that's
awesome.
That's very fortunate. We're very fortunate for that.
Super fortunate.
And I'm glad that it gets to be we all agree on pretty much everything. We all know what we want to do. We all know what's cool, and there's no meddling. It's just like what we want to do, and I think people are going to see. They're going to get energy from that. So that's the whole purpose.
No, I think you're right.
I'd rather be in a small band that's climbing than a big band that's dropping.
Yep. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean,
It's
the
just
other
more
thing
fun
is,
for me.
like it's also laying that foundation because I mean, let's be honest, a lot of these folks, they started to love what you were creating when you were in CKY. And so,
Right.
that obviously got you a lot of listeners. And it's kind of like, it's the same thing with bands of any size. If you have fans, even if you're super small, like my band Lucid, we have fans. We have fans all over the place. So now that we're not playing as much, the people in the bands that are doing side projects, people want to go see what they're creating that's different. My bass player is the drummer in my sister's band, Adrian Aardvark. So when they go to different cities, where Lucid used to play, like people come out and they want to see what Chris is creating, and it's totally different, and it's incredibly interesting, and it's fucking awesome, but it's different than what we were, and it's exciting
Right.
for him, and he's in all these other projects. That's not the only band he's in. He's just doing it all the time, or when my guitar player wants to go out and do a solo show, like the Lucid fans are going to go and listen to what he's doing. And it's you have to you're building something from scratch, but you have a little help with the people that love what you've created and they want to see what your new stuff is, and that's super
And
fortunate
when it comes
and
to
very
rock and
helpful.
roll, I can't change my sound. I haven't changed my sound.
Yeah, that's you.
So
I mean, I can hear, like I said,
people are
with those
gonna
riffs,
hear the familiarity,
Yeah.
and they're gonna hear what's missing or what they've been missing, and I'm just excited because I haven't changed my style. I haven't changed my sound. My guitar sounds, the way I write songs. It's all what comes natural to me.
Yeah, your voice
So,
is still on point. It sounds great. I mean,
it's still my
it's still your
vocals.
voice.
It's still it's if it's not anything but an improvement, then it isn't worth doing.
Yeah.
So we all put 150,000% into what we're doing, and it's finally time for it all to see the light of day when this record finally comes out of the goddamn plant, that pressing plant.
Yeah.
So within days. So I'm really excited.
Wow, really? That soon?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, this is
It
really,
only
really
takes.
exciting.
I think it only takes a week or two to press CDs.
Yeah, they're pretty.
With
quick turnaround.
vinyl, a lot of people are wondering if the campaign album is going to be on vinyl, but they'd have to get the permission from every single person that owns it. It'd have to be majority rules kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, so I know you've been asked these questions like a friggin' million times, I'm sure. So you got the album coming out. You're going to go out and you're going to do some touring. You already said that. Obviously, you probably don't have dates or cities yet. I mean, I know people are going to be
Not
listening.
yet.
Where can they find this information when it drops?
Well, we have Facebook, 96BB Music, I believe is the address. We can be found on Facebook. I'm not a Twitter person. I'm not really a social media person. You know, if it was up to me, I'd be mailing out flyers on paper. But
walking around California, putting up posters on the walls and shit, man. I'm with you. I still do it. It's like
exactly.
guerrilla marketing.
You know what?
It's
such an old idea. It would probably work now.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's the cool thing to do. Yeah, I mean, I still put up. I put up posters. I would do it all. I do it all the time. I still do it. I mean, you have to do the social. Do you primarily do the social media stuff yourself, or you have somebody that does that?
I have somebody that runs. I'm on Facebook and I'm on the band's Facebook all the time.
Right.
But I don't go on Instagram. Somebody else runs my Instagram, which I don't really.
I can't figure
do
Instagram
much.
out. I feel like an idiot, but I've been trying for like 3 weeks and I just don't get it.
I don't have a cellular phone. I just don't like that technology. I don't need it. I don't need that technology.
I envy the shit out of you for that, man. Like I've always said it. It's like, you know, 'cause I was the one that was always doing the social media stuff for my band. So I was like posting pictures and putting.
That's what everybody says.
You know,
I wish I didn't have my phone. I wish I didn't have a phone.
Otherwise, we're not big enough to have somebody else do it. I got to do it. If I don't do it, it doesn't get done. You know what I mean? And then my day job is I sell craft beer, and you know my friggin' phone, dude, it doesn't stop. And it's like, you know, I went on vacation.
You sell what?
I sell beer. I work for a beer distributor. I sell craft beer.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, for that stuff, yeah, you definitely need a phone.
But still, it's just there.
And for what I do, I need a phone.
Yeah,
I'm just stubborn.
Exactly, you are. But you also you're fortunate enough to have somebody that, you know, you pay or whatever that can like do that stuff for you. I mean, that's why, you know.
It's word of mouth. That's actually what it is. It's word of mouth. One fan will tell another one where to go. We're easy to find. We have a couple sample tracks out right now.
Yeah, no, it wasn't hard. I mean, it was just freaking Google search. You know, beautiful thing. I mean, yeah, I don't know. People are excited. I'm excited. I hope you're coming somewhere, you know, this way. I'd love to come to a show.
Absolutely.
I guess we'll see. You know, where you're going to be when it all drops. I want to thank you for coming and or calling in and talking to us. This is our first phone interview, and this is my 25th show, so it was super awesome to have you on, man.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I'll get your info from Damien, and I'll email you the record plant in Burlington. And like I said...
and let me know when this is going to air so I can tell everyone.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll do. And if you don't mind, like I said, I'd love to send you one of those vinyls, too, if that's cool.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that online.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, Deron Miller, 96 Bitter Beings, and many other things, but that's the project he's really pushing right now. And
thank you very much.
I want to thank you for doing this, man. Thanks a lot for coming on the Lowell Show.
And thank you, too. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Love you guys.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Take care. Be safe.
See you later.
Later.
Bye. Thank you guys for listening to the Lowell Show, only on northvolume.com. This is the 25th show. We're going to keep them coming. It's cool to have this technology to be able to, I mean, it's not like it's freaking new technology, but I've never done a podcast over the phone before. So it's cool because I got some people that wanted to call in and do this. It just kind of makes us a little more accessible. So that was it. That was Deron Miller calling us from sunny California, always sunny in California, unfortunately. This is a Lowell Show on northvolume.com. Thank you to any new listeners. Thank you to all the old listeners. Peace.